stood up, or I woke up and I stood up out of my body and I was watching everything that was going on.
Welcome to the show, and today I would like to welcome Jay. Jay, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. You have quite a tale to tell. Um, we've talked a little bit about it beforehand, but it was a pretty amazing experience. So why don't you just go ahead and jump into, well, actually, first, usually what I do ask is, where were you spiritually speaking before? Now, this happened when you were how old again? I'm sorry.
I was
Young,
14.
14. So, yes, so pretty young. So, before you had this incident, um, which was basically, we'll call it an NDE, uh, where were you as far as your spiritual beliefs? Did you have any? Did you go to church a
Um,
lot?
I was raised Southern Baptist. Of course, we didn't really go to church much as my family. Um, just kind of we were believers, honestly. Um, I'd always been raised that the Christian faith, God, Jesus, and all that good jazz and stuff. But I really didn't have a spiritual identity at that point in time because I was kind of on a crossroads of my own, I guess you could say, like my own like thought process of what religion is supposed to be. But from my background, I was raised Christian.
Okay. That's typical for here in the United States. So why don't you so you have a Christian background, you don't really go to church too much. Did you think about your religion at all, or it wasn't really a priority? I mean, 14 is pretty young to be worried about, a lot of things like that.
Not really. I really just didn't think about religion honestly because I felt like religion was something that could always be addressed at a later time. And like you said, I was 14 years old, so I was really interested in being more just doing things that 14-year-olds do. I guess I
Yeah,
really like.
being a teenager, right?
Mhm.
Right. Okay, so why don't you take me through what happened that night, like how this all began.
Well, from the for the preface everything, my dad had an issue with cocaine my entire life. Um, he would go out on these benders and he would come home and be really apologetic for the first few days, but as the drug would leave his system, he would be very volatile. If anyone who knows anyone who's been on cocaine, they know like that after the drug is leaving your system, you become very volatile, very angry, you get mood swings. It's not a good thing to. It's not a fun thing to deal with. Um, and the night that this happened, I'll never forget it. I was downstairs in the basement with me and my little sister. We were playing Minecraft on our Xbox, and my dad had come home. And to preface this, what had happened was I had gotten in trouble at school for apparently smart mouthing somebody because it was a long story about I was trying to get help in math class and I couldn't, and the
Mhm.
teacher was going to make us have something go home to be signed, and I didn't want to have my parents sign it because I knew I'd get in trouble. But I had done everything I was supposed to do to get the help I was supposed to get, and I had vocalized my opinion to that teacher, and so she had emailed my stepmom, who that's just another story for another day. She had told my dad about it and like made it up into a big story that it wasn't. So I'll never forget this night. My dad came storming down the stairs and he came up to the little door in the room that me and my sister were in, and he said, "I need your fucking phone, your goddamn laptop, your tablet." I mean, he was screaming and hollering at me, and something inside me was like, "No, I'm not doing that. You can take my tablet, or you can take my phone, you can take my laptop. You're not taking my tablet. I paid for the tablet." And
Okay.
he, it was like this look in his eye. His eyes went black almost, and I knew I had messed up. So he reached forward and he grabbed me by my hair and he yanks me through this little door. And we're talking about this door is like that big. Because it's the way our basement was set up was we had put up plywood walls and stuff to section off places where we could have like a little den and stuff.
Hmm.
So this is like a little small doorway that he yanked me through. And I went into the other room in the basement, which had our pool table on a rug that was sitting on the concrete floor, and I was holding onto my phone like with this hand for dear life in my chest because I knew if I let go of my phone, like I was gonna be screwed. I was trying to call my grandparents or somebody to come help me, and I know me and my dad spun around for a minute or two, and he got me on my stomach on the ground, and he put his knee in my back, and he started smashing my face into the concrete. I mean, just bashing my head into the concrete. And every time my head hit the concrete, I lost consciousness a little
Oh
bit more.
God.
And the last thing I remember was my sister screaming that she was going to go get help. And the around the it was probably the fifth or sixth smack, I'd say, probably fifth. Everything went flat, and I stood up, or I woke up and I stood up out of my body, and I was watching everything that was going on. I was trying to stop it, obviously. I
Right.
was
So
very,
at this point, you didn't even realize like like you were outside of your body. You were literally watching your dad on top of your body, out of your body.
yeah, yeah,
Wow. Unbelievable. But it didn't process though, you said like you kind of felt
no,
like you felt like you could physically step in and do something.
yeah. And I tried, and obviously nothing happened, and I was really strange. I was really feeling strange, um, because this place that I was in did not have a temperature. Does that make sense? It was not cold or hot or room temperature. Like it was just like being in blank voidness. You know what I mean? Just like it was like watching a show in voidness. Does that make sense?
In a way, so like you suddenly didn't feel like you didn't have
Temperature.
that physical sensation of temperature.
No, no, or like, or just like the wind touching your skin. There was nothing there.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was,
boy, I never thought about that, but I guess yeah, it wouldn't be there, right?
it was nothingness. And
Wow.
then as I was continuing to watch it, um, somebody tapped on my shoulder, and I turned around, and my mom was standing there. Um, and my mom had passed away 2 years prior. She had a history of drug abuse too, and she was actually clean when she passed away, but she had a stroke, and it left her
Mm.
brain dead. And she passed away 2 years prior, in 2012. And that was
Wow. Now, what was that like? Like, did you see your when you saw your mom, did it process with you that maybe now like she was a spirit and you were too, or did that not still hit yet?
not really. It was shocking to see her, because I
Yeah.
knew she was dead. Like I knew she'd been dead for 2 years almost at the point in time. But I wasn't scared of her or anything. I wasn't, and it wasn't like most people think you see a spirit like they're wearing the white gown, and she was wearing a pair of Nikes and jeans and a t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
She looked just like she looked in life. Um,
Wow.
and it was strange to see her um, face to face because I knew she was still dead. You know what I mean? But I didn't really associate with myself being dead at that point. No, I didn't.
Wow. That is incredible. So did you communicate, were you able to communicate with your mother?
Yes, it was more telepathically. It was not like when I tried to speak, it was like I could feel it going in, like it didn't come out of my mouth. It was going from head to head. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
More like I said something along the lines of, "You're here. Like, how are you here? Like, you're." And she said, "I love you, but you've got to see something." And that's when she took me to the place.
Wow. Okay, so I, I can't even imagine this. So you basically connect with your mother. Now, when she said, "I want to take you somewhere," is that when you finally sort of click like that you were, physically dead?
I don't really, I don't know because I think part of me knew I wasn't going to actually die that night. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, interesting. Okay.
I think part of me knew that. But at the same on the same hand, I think that's probably when I realized that something was off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So where
Because
did, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, so where did she take you?
So she grabbed my shoulder, and we were like instantly like a vacuum cleaner sucked out of that room, and we went into this other room that looked like a movie theater,
Hmm.
and it was like I said, like a movie theater. There were seats, and um, we sat down, and she showed me what she showed me.
Okay. And what did she show you?
So she started showing me like images from my life, and what my life was going to turn out to be like. For example, I was about to turn 15 years old when this happened. I was 2 months away from turning 15, and
Right.
my granny had a little red Chevrolet HHR that I really loved, and I was going to get from her. And my mom showed me a scene of me driving my car, like turning 16 years old and driving my car, um, and like multiple scenes of being with my vehicle. Um, and then she moved to another scene when I graduated high school, and I could see all these people that I had known, that I was friends with, walking down the stage with me. Um, but then she went to another kind of like not memory but scene. She showed me this man, and he had brown eyes and a goatee beard. Um, he was very much handsome. I thought he was gorgeous in the dream or in the NDE or whatever you want to call it. Um,
Hmm.
and I looked at the screen, looked at my mom, and she just continued to tell me to look forward. And I saw myself walking down the aisle with this man, and my wedding day, um, which that blew my mind, um, because I had never thought I was going to get married to anyone, much less a man. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, at
so we
14, I'm
went
sure
from
you
that.
had a lot of conflicting emotions and uncertainties and
Oh yeah, oh yeah, I did. It was like I grew up in the deep South, so it's not
yeah,
very
they're not very tolerant of
welcoming.
anyone that's, yeah, they're not very
No,
tolerant of
no,
anything different. Yes.
no.
Wow. So, what about like, so you said you did see some things. Did you see your entire, I mean, granted, you're only 14, but did you see the entire 14 years that you had lived as well, like a life review before that?
Yes and no. There were scenes from like my childhood that I had remembered. One, for example, there was a scene from when my little sister and I we were, my little sister just come to live with my dad and my stepmom. So they started taking care of her. They ended up adopting her from my mom. Um, see, my mom and my sister and I have different dads. And my sister's dad ran off when she was a baby. So my dad has been taking care of her entire life, like buying her stuff and being there for her. Anyway, make a long story short, she came to live with us about a year before my mom passed away. No, excuse me, about 3 years before my mom passed away. And then about a year before she passed away, we were actually going able to visit her. And my
Mm,
mom had just gotten this car. It was an old crusty Saturn car, a piece of shit. But she was so proud of this car because she bought it herself. And Destiny was in her car seat in the back, and she ripped the headliner down, snatched it, and broke it. Like, and my mom flipped out, obviously pulled over on the side of the road and spanked the hell out of her. But she showed me that, and that was something that was it was more funny at that point in time, I guess, because Desi had
yeah.
brought up a little bit. Um, I'd seen my first core memory of being in my high chair and my grandmother feeding me. Um, but other than that, no, not really, nothing more than just a few like little pops of oh, this is real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. So it was a lot more stuff into the future. So how far into the future were you able to see? How far did it show you?
Um, I would say it showed me up until at least I would say it showed me up until at least the age of 60. Um,
60?
I would say at least that's the age that I'm perceiving in my head. But it didn't really show many. It really only showed images and things that were going to happen up until the time I was 30, and I'm 25 now. And then after I turned 30, it really only showed like just basic things. You know what I mean? Um,
Like just like small
um,
milestones in your life, or
yeah, yeah, like retiring and stuff like that. It
okay.
was really just the key points of my life. I think that she was trying to show me over the next few years because at that point in time I was also very suicidal. I didn't want to live anymore. Um, and I just got to a point where I just didn't want to be alive, and I tried to commit suicide twice before,
Oh my
and had planned
goodness.
on doing it, a week later. So I think she was trying to show me the key points of my life of the next upcoming years. Because how are you going to tell a 14-year-old, oh, you need to wait till you turn 70 to make sure you're going to be, you're going to have a great life? I mean, you can't tell a 14-year-old.
No, no. So it was like the wise move to show it's not like she tried to show you that like some really fun positive experiences, obviously, to show you that you do have something to look forward to.
She did. She did show me some negative things that were going to happen too. Um, in January of 2018, I lost my best friend to a car accident,
Oh my, I'm
and it
so
broke my heart.
sorry.
Thank you very much. It broke my heart into a million pieces because at that point in time, we had just started to get close again. Um, my dad was very homophobic and did not want me to have anything to do with him. And was Brandon was a very light person, like very, 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 very gay, and just exuded the room with rainbows. My dad couldn't stand that at the
Oh
time. Of
boy.
course, he's changed now, but he had separated us from hanging out and being friends, and so I felt like I lost the time that we had met, which was the year before that. So the time I was 13 till 18 when he passed away. I felt like we had lost all those years, and we had just started to get close again when he passed away.
Oh
Um,
boy.
but when he passed away, I had had the dream that about 3 nights prior that somebody I knew was in a very bad car accident in a blue sedan, um, and they were in this dream like it's like I was watching this person stand outside of their body, and they were just like asking for help and begging for someone to help them, and you can't help them. And so I woke
Right.
up from that dream feeling really, really messed up. It really messed me up in the head. I couldn't go back to sleep, obviously. And then a few nights later, my best friend got killed in his car, and he had just bought that car too. We had actually bought cars together. I bought a Lexus, and he bought a whatever that I can't remember what kind of car it was. Some kind of Ford. I think it was a Taurus. Um, but he hadn't even had it 3 weeks. It still had dealership tags on it,
Oh
and
my Lord.
went to work early in the morning, and I don't know if he fell asleep or if he was just speeding around a dark back road, and he crashed and it killed him. So she showed me that, um, and that one really bothered me. Um, then she showed me my grandmother passing away, the one had practically raised me at that point in time, and that was really rough too. But the funny thing about that was the man from the wedding image that she showed me was in the room with me when my grandmother passed away, and
Oh, okay. Is that true?
the
Is that what
whole of my
happened?
when she passed away, he had only got to meet her one time before she really got sick. My grandmother had Alzheimer's, and he got to meet her 6 months prior when she was really starting to go downhill. Um, and she just kept calling me her baby. She said, "Please take care of my baby. Take care of my baby. I love my baby." And that's the last time I got to see her before she passed away. But we were in the room with her, and I was crying my eyes out, obviously, bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
And he said, well, "I need to talk to her, baby." I said, "Okay." And he grabbed her by the hand. He said, "I know you don't know me that well, but I promise you I'll take care of your baby. I promise you I'll be there for your baby. I'll take care of him, and he'll be okay." And she gripped his hand. And now she was loaded up on morphine and Ativan. I mean, so many a cocktail of medications. There's no way she could have ripped his hand, but she did, and
Mm.
she passed away 20 minutes later. So that was another thing that she showed me that really
Wow.
kind of hurt.
Yeah, that has
And
to be tough.
I don't know why she chose to show me those two scenes because you would think that would make me more depressed, you know. But
Hmm. But it also shows that there's people that love you. So did you get married?
I did,
Okay.
not legally, but we did have a commitment ceremony. We have been off and on together for the past few years,
Hmm.
um, and and it just really it was just I'm telling you, when I met my husband, the night I met him, it was crazy. It was a crazy story. I met
Okay.
him. I met him at my job. He was actually applying for a job there. There was a coworker of mine that she's like, "Oh, I have a gay brother. He's gonna come over and put a job application." And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't really give a damn. I don't really give a fuck, you know, because I just got out of really bad, 7 months prior." And so she brought John up there, and he was everything that I was not into. He had cowboy boots on, Stetson hat, Stetson jumpsuit. I mean, he just was not anything that I was in. I was really into more like jock kind of like guys,
Hmm.
um, boys, I guess. And he said hey to me. I said hey, and I was like, he got called in for his interview, so that was the last time I spoke to him. And then that afternoon, me and my friend Faith we were going to get in my car, and he screamed across the parking lot, "Hey, cutie pie!" And we both kept like walking, and nobody's talking to us, and "Hey, cutie pie!" again, and nobody. We both were looking around, like, who the hell is screaming? And he screamed it again, and she looked at him, and she goes, like, me? Like you talking to me? And no, not you, bitch, him. And he pulled over to my car, which I had a black BMW at that point in time. And he asked me if I wanted to come to that party, and I just remember looking at him really strange. Like I was like, I've seen you somewhere before, and normally I wouldn't
Ah.
go to a party with strangers. We went, and that night, some stuff kind of went down that wasn't supposed to go down, and I ended up in my car. It was like 28 degrees outside. I ended up in my car with the heat on, talking to my friend Taylor on the phone because just some stuff had gone down, and John had come out of the car and knocked on my window, and I rolled the window down, and I was like, "Dude, leave me the fuck alone! Like, just go the fuck inside, leave me alone." And he persisted and bothered me for the next 15 minutes until I finally let him in my car. And it's like we had a conversation for 4.5 hours that night. Um, and every time I looked into his eyes, I knew I'd seen him somewhere before. That he was somewhere. He was from somewhere, and I didn't put two and two together until we'd been together for probably about a year and a half. And it just hit me one morning. I was like, "Wait a minute, you're from the Dream or the NDE." Um, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I knew you. I knew who you were before I met you." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He's a skeptic. He doesn't do stuff like that. He's more like,
Sure.
I said, "Well, baby, I saw us getting together. I saw us meeting, and I didn't know your name, but I knew who you were, and I knew you were special because if you look at our dynamic, we were nothing alike. We had no business being together. Like I, I don't want to. I was very much spoiled, I guess.
Hmm.
At that point in time, I had
Sure.
just gotten a job. I had just bought a BMW, um, and I was living with my friend. And but my dad and my stepmom at that point in time were helping me get back on my feet. So when I met John, he was alone in the world. He didn't have anybody. His family had walked out on him. He had just returned back from Florida. He had worked he worked as a carny, like a carnival artist person.
Hmm.
He returned from Florida with the clothes on his back and like three other outfits, and he was living with this friend of mine that I worked with, and she was of course feeding him drugs. I mean, so if you looked at who we were as people, we were nothing alike, and we had no business being together. And every time, like, I would try to distance myself away from him, like something would always pull me back to him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's yeah, I mean, so it took a little while, but it finally clicked. Um, so was there any other memories that came up that happened? Or I mean, this is all going on, you said, and you two are basically sitting in this sort of movie theater environment watching this together. Is your mom like commenting while this is happening?
No, she really was just like, I knew she was watching it with me, but she was really being more content on making sure I was watching it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I would try to like ask her something, or she'd direct her attention back to the screen to keep watching. Um,
Okay.
and, and this does not happen during the NDE, but um, but basically make you understand like how I feel like I came back with different abilities. Um,
Yes.
so about 3 months later, I had planned on committing suicide. I was done. I just didn't want to live anymore.
Even after
And
that experience.
mhm, because
Wow.
understand going back to human the
Regular
human
life.
when you've seen that is very much it's challenging. It really is.
Yeah.
Because you know what you've seen and you can't make everybody believe you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know there's something else out there, and so. But anyway, back to my story. I had planned on committing suicide. I was going to stay home from school the next day. I had bought the bottle of pills from a friend of mine. Of course, they didn't really know what they were for, but regardless of the fact that I bought them, and I
Mm-hmm.
was swallow all of them, go to bed, and not wake up. And my stepmom worked at that point in time. My dad worked, so I knew that I'd be left alone, and they'd just come home to a dead body. Um, but the night before I was going to do it, I went to sleep. I have this dream, and I'm in this dream. I'm sitting in a rocking chair, a reclining rocking chair, and I'm holding this baby. And this room is filled with people that I don't know. But these people are so happy, and they know who I am. And I'm holding this beautiful little baby, and I'm rocking this baby back and forth. And the baby like falls asleep in my arms. And something in that dream said, "Don't do it, or you'll miss this." And
Mm.
I woke up. Obviously, I didn't do it. Well, that was in 2014, so 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 7 years later, I was sitting in a reclining chair at my house, rocking a beautiful baby girl back and forth. It was my newborn niece, or not new. She wasn't newborn, but she was a few months old.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the people that were in that dream were actually my adopted mom that I hadn't met at that point in time, and my brother, and both my brothers and John, and my brother's little girl.
Wow,
Uh,
that's beautiful. Did it dawn on you that like again, did it click at some point when you were
it did.
holding her?
Oh God, I'm telling you, dude, I flipped out. I was holding her and she was about to go to sleep. She probably wasn't asleep. I looked, John said, "Get the damn baby out of my arms." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, get this baby out of my arms right now. I'm about to drop her. He's like, "Why?" I said, "Just please get the baby out of my arms right now." So he took the baby out of my arms,
Mhm.
and I went into the other room. My adopted mom was like, "Well, what's going on?" I was like, "I'm telling you, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. I knew she was going to be like you have to understand like and my adopted mom is she's more psychic intuitive too.
Oh, great.
So she was like, "Well, tell me about it," and I did, and she was like, "Well, you
Uh-huh.
probably did a dream or a premonition, and aren't you glad you didn't do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I am, because I would have missed that." But that little side story.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty amazing. So how did the flashback flash forward end? Like that whole experience in that movie theater. What happened next?
So we went, but it was strange. It was like we were sitting in the chair and watching my scenes, and then instantly we were back in the basement, and I see my dad still on top of me. Um, and out of my peripheral vision, I guess I could see this guy run through the room and tackle him, and he hit the ground. And when he hit the ground, he looked up and saw what he had done, and like instantly ran away. Felt horrible, I guess. And I just remember watching this with my mom standing there, and the whole time I was telling her, I'm not going back to that. Don't even try to play this bullshit game with me. I'm not going back to that. Fuck you, pretty much. And I believe
Yeah.
I said that to her. I was like, fuck you, I'm not going back to that. And she was like, you have to. Like, it's your time. You've got to go. Like, you cannot stay here with me. And I was like begging and pleading with her to let me stay. And she pointed at the corner of the room that we were in, and she saw him pretty much like trying to revive me, I guess.
Oh my.
And this person, I'm not going to say their name because privacy reasons, but was my boyfriend at the time. And he was one of my closest friends and people that I kept real close to me. Obviously, he's my boyfriend, but he was a very trusted person. And the fact that he had showed up when he was called was amazing. You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
and she kept showing me. She's like, you got to go back. You can't stay here. And I begged her and I pleaded with her, and she said, no, son, I love you, but you can't go back. You got to go back.
Right.
And so I knew we were at this point. I was facing her, and I knew if she touched me, I'd go back. And she reached forward, and I kept backing up. And up until that point, like there was no sense of walls didn't make sense. You know what I mean? I could walk through a wall, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Like actual
But
physicality.
up until that point, it had been like that. But at that point, I was backed up against the wall, and she put her hand on my shoulder, and instantly it went black. And the next thing I remember was opening my eyes and feeling every inch of pain and every everything that I was my physical body had been feeling. Um, I was in a lot of pain. I do remember that. My nose was broken. I had a chipped tooth. Um, I had a concussion, obviously, and my forehead was bashed in. Um, and I just kept looking at, we'll call him Lee. Kept looking at Lee, and I was like, what the hell? Like, how the hell did I get back here? Like, and he was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're he explained to me what happened, and he was like, I came and I did this for you, and I just tried to make sure that you were going to be okay, and you really scared me. I didn't think you were going to live, and I just was angry at him. And I don't know why I was angry at him, other than the fact that he brought me back from that world. You know,
Right.
his physical brought me back from that world.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
actually heard that before where people just get kind of like, wait, and who could blame them? Like you're in a much better, peaceful place and a world away from pain and worldly troubles, and then somebody brings you back.
yeah,
Yeah. So I understand that initial reaction.
and the funny thing is, there was never any legal or like medical personal involved. There was never any. The police were never called, or medics were never called. Nobody,
Hmm.
because obviously my dad was going to call them, obviously, because he'd gone to jail. I mean,
Yeah,
my
yeah, that's what
sister
I was gonna
didn't call because
say.
she didn't want me and her to get taken from our home
Right.
because we did have a
Yeah.
nice home, and we had nice things physically. Um, but other than that, it wasn't a big deal for me, obviously. But I just remember being so angry at him and hating him for the most part. I hated him at that one time, and I didn't know how to explain that to him because when I told him what had happened, he was like, what do you mean we don't get married? And I was like, we don't, I'm not going to marry you. We're not going to be together. Like, this is going to dissipate, and I'll get married to this other guy who's got a goatee and he's got brown eyes. And I'm sorry, baby boy, but you got blue eyes and you ain't got a facial hair on your body. Like,
Right.
he was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I'm telling you, I saw it. I'm telling you, I saw it. And he's like, no, you're just going crazy. You've got a lot of head injuries. You're just in a lot of pain. I said, no, I'm telling you, Lee. I'm telling you, I saw it. And
Yeah.
it was a very surreal experience, to say the least.
I can only imagine. Now, did you ever tell anybody else in your family what happened? Like, did you ever tell your dad?
No,
Hmm.
I told my sister.
Yeah. And
She
how
believes.
she believed you? She took it as truth.
She does. She believes me.
That's
Um,
good.
she also is. She's a psychic intuitive as well, so she believes in that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Uh,
Now, that's pretty handy. It kind of runs in the family. So, these abilities, the abilities you have, like, so what do you find yourself now able to do? Like, do you still have those sort of premonition feelings, dreams? Can you see, spirits, anything like that?
and I see spirits. It's it's more like I see. I'm looking at you right now. Um, they're the way the spirit world is like most people believe between 3 and 4 a.m. is when the veil is thin between our worlds, and it's like it really is like a veil is thin, it's lifted. They can walk in between our world and theirs, and um, a lot of them appear as light. They don't even appear as their human form. Um, but like
Are
the
they
work,
all ex-humans, or does it vary? Like are there like angelic beings, or does it seem like humans are the ones that sort of ex-humans, if you want to call them, or previous humans?
I
Do
typically
they?
see it. Typically see ex-humans. I do.
Okay,
Now
that's really interesting.
I've been in places where I felt something evil was there. Now you want to call it demonic or just an evil spirit. I felt it, and it makes me sick. Um, for example, my grandparents' house um, was very haunted by a very evil demonic spirit. And I had felt that it was there before this event had happened and it wasn't until after this event happened that I actually saw it.
Oh my
And it
God,
showed itself to me.
what did it look like?
Um, I, I only saw it from the legs down, but dude, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or it could have been 4 o'clock. It was early in the morning to go get something to
Hmm.
drink out of the kitchen. And I was at my grandparents' house, and I went into the kitchen. I was pouring myself a drink, and I had the fridge door open, and right beside the where the fridge was the kitchen dining room, and there would be no explanation for anybody to be standing there at that time of night, because
Right,
my
yeah.
grandparents are asleep. And I look down. I don't know why I look down, and I see these disgusting black feet with claws, and they're the most disgusting gargoyle like nasty looking feet you've ever looked at in your life. And the
Oh my
claws
God.
are like claws are tapping on the ground. And
Wow.
I stood there and I was like, and I looked up, it had legs, and it was like they were human legs up until the calf, and then they started looking more like animalistic. And at that point, that's where the waist was cut off, where the fridge door was open. And all I know is I slammed the door as I stood there for what probably seemed like 3 minutes, but it couldn't have been that long. And I slammed the door, ran back into my bedroom and shut the door and locked it. And I, I think I spent the night in the house twice after that. And
How old were
I,
you when this happened?
I was 16 when I saw that one.
16. Wow.
Yeah,
Did it ever speak to you, or did you ever hear anything from it?
not really that I ever heard anything from it, other than I would hear. I will say this: when my grandmother passed away, it was there. I know it was there. Um, and my adopted mom pretty much was the one who told me that. it was just trying to trick me. Because right before my grandmother passed away, I looked over into the bathroom. She was in a hospital bed in the master bedroom, and I saw it again, and it was giggling and laughing, and it was like, "How I'm going to take her soul?" Like, you're gonna you say your goodbyes now. Like, pretty much, it was taunting me. And
Wow.
how do you say how do you say in front of a group of other people that don't believe like that? Hey, there's this thing in the corner and it's laughing. It's going to take her soul. Like, how do you say that?
You don't, yeah, you can't, unfortunately. Wow, that had to be
But
pretty terrifying.
other than that, um, I actually found out the meaning of that spirit being there, and it's actually not. It's not meant for. It wasn't meant for her. It wasn't meant for me. It was meant for my step grandfather. Um, we found out recently that he did some stuff to my sister,
Oh boy.
and he and it made me remember some stuff he'd done to me too as a kid. I'm not going to get into it, but to make a long story short, I believe that the spirit was placed there to torment him. And
Mm,
when they moved into that house in 2012, he lost his ever loving mind. Like, my grandmother got sick immediately, which I believe she got sick because of other things, but
hmm.
that's when this thing started to show itself. And the funny thing about this was, dude, is this was a brand new house. It was only a year old when they moved in. Nobody had ever died there, so it was more like, what the hell is this thing doing here? Like, why is it here?
Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty odd.
and I believe it's still there to this day. He still lives in the house, and we haven't spoken to him since the day my grandmother passed away. And I believe he's going batshit crazy. I believe it. I believe it torments him, and I believe that's why it was placed there. But I also believe that it was placed there and was not given the. It was not told it was not to mess with us. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It just, being the level of the kind of spirit it is, it does that.
Yeah.
Another thing for
So
me is like, do what now?
no, I was just gonna say, so the spirits that how often do you see or experience like other souls or spirits? All the
Um,
time or
it really
just
just depends on. It really just depends, honestly. Um, like, for example, I used to work for Amazon, and I was driving for them, and every fucking week they'd have me deliver to the Brookwood Hospital in Birmingham, Alabama, and I hated delivering to the hospital because hospitals are known hotspots for spiritual activity because there's so much birth and death taking place in there.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And every time I would deliver to this hospital, this one particular spirit would follow me around, and it was horrible. He'd been killed in a car accident. He was 17 years old, and he didn't know he was dead, I guess. And
oh
he
God.
kept saying, call his mother and call his mother. And I remember one day I went crazy. Like, people thought I was nuts. And I was like, dude, leave me the fuck alone. Like, go the fuck away. And this one nurse was walking past me. I was going up to the cancer treatment center to deliver the package. And she's like, who are you talking to? And I was like, you don't see him? And she's like, no, I don't see him. And I was like, okay, I need to get the hell out of here before they put me on a 24-hour psych eval.
Right.
But come to find out, I did some research that 3 years prior to that, there had been a young man that had been killed in a car accident. Um, he had been driving a nice Porsche SUV and was speeding, and
Mhm.
he got killed and he hit a tree. Um, and I guess I felt bad at that point in time because I had pushed him away. So the next
Mhm.
time I went to the hospital, I thought which was ironically the week that I quit. It was the funniest thing in the world because I quit that week. I don't know if anyone, any of y'all know this, but working for Amazon sucks. Like, I mean, they will work you to death.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard horror stories actually.
Horrible, awful. But anyway, it was and actually it was the day I quit too. Yeah, it was my. I'll never forget that it was my last day there because at the end of the day I decided I was going to quit. I delivered to the hospital and he appeared to me again And I said to him, I said, you are no longer of this physical world. And he said, what do you mean? I was like, you are dead. You are no longer of the physical world. Your mother knows you're dead. You've been dead for the past 3 years, dude. No, I haven't. No, no. You gotta let my mom know. I'm like, I'm telling you, your mom knows that you're gone. You need to move on. You need to move on to light. And he looked at me kind of funny and kind of scratched his head. And he turned around and walked down the hallway, took a left, and what I can imagine was where he went to the light because after that I didn't see him again. And I stayed at the hospital for
Wow.
another other deliveries that morning, and I didn't see him again. So,
Oh, wow.
um,
That's pretty incredible.
mhm. um, I've seen my best friend a bunch of times, up until when he came to me in 2019 and told me he was going to leave and he wasn't coming back. I had seen him um, in times of desperation. You know, he passed away in 2019 or 18, excuse me, and 2019. I just got me and Johnny got our first place together, and we were things were going pretty well for us. Um, Brandon would only appear to me in times of despair or sadness. Like I remember one time I was coming home from work. I worked at a little Italian restaurant at that point in time, and me and my boss had gotten into it. I had a bad day, and I was driving my Lexus, and I was coming down Deerfoot Parkway, and which you're only supposed to go like 35 on that road, and I was going like 70, and
Mm.
I was bawling my eyes out, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and there was Brandon sitting in my back seat, and
Whoa.
I turned around, and he was still there. I was like, "What the fuck? How the hell are you?" And he said to me, "He said, you need to slow down. You need to slow down right now. Slow this fucking car down." And the car slowed down. I didn't slow it down.
Oh my God.
The next time I saw him, um, the next time I, this is actually a story for malevolent spirits if you want. Um, so later that summer, it was probably July of 2018. I had
Hmm.
been living with my friend Faith at that point in time, and I had come to stay the night at my dad's stepmom's house that weekend. And the way that their house was set up, well, her house, so they got a divorce, but it's set up as you pull in the driveway, you go around a long driveway, and then at the end of the driveway, you're right there, and the house is back here, and you're pointed out to the woods. There's nothing but woods back there, and I'll never forget it. It was probably 2 o'clock in the morning. I had gone out to the bar with my adopted mom and some other friends of mine, and I wasn't even old enough to go to a bar, but I got in, and I was
Hmm.
sitting in my car. I pulled in the driveway. I was sitting in my car, about to grab my stuff and go upstairs and go to bed. And keep in mind, the central locks on my car did not work. So pressing the button, they wouldn't do anything. They were just broken. It was an older car. Um,
Hmm.
but anyway, regardless of the fact, um, I was sitting in the car with my headlights on, and I was on my phone playing. And I hear out of the radio speakers, I hear "Help me," and I'm like, "Fuck!" Like I'm looking at my phone, like the hell did "Help me, help me, help me, Hunter, help me," and I'm like, "What? Who? Help who?" And then the voice came through, and it was Brandon. And he was saying, "Come help me! I'm out in the woods. Come help me, please!" And I'm like, "What the hell? Like, no, no, this is not you." And I remember I was just sitting there in shock, and I couldn't bring myself to look up to the windshield. Um, but I kept saying, "Help!" He kept saying, "Help me, help me." And the voice got darker and darker, and it was like, "Help me now." And I was like, "No, I will not be helping you. Go to hell! Like, fuck you."
Hmm.
And the locks on my car cycled, like all of them cycled the lock. And I looked up,
Oh.
and my hand had been creeping toward the handle to pull it open. Um, and something, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was my my other grandmother who passed away. I don't know if it was her or if it was really Brandon. I'm not sure who it was, but somebody grabbed my hand and threw it down on my lap. And I just remember the static in the air was so thick, and it's sorry, it brings chills to me just thinking about this now. And I was like not about to get out of my car, and I looked up, and in the woods there was this shadow creature standing out there, and it moved behind the trees. And as soon as that happened, the static in the air went away, and like my whatever I was watching on my Facebook on my phone at that point in time continued to play to the speakers, and it was gone. It was over. And
Whoa.
I, I remember I called my dad at three
After that
o'clock that
happened.
morning, and I was like, "You need to come outside on the back porch and watch me walk in this fucking house. I'm not about to walk out of this car." Like he was like, What are you talking about? You're going crazy." I was like, "No, I'm not going crazy. I'm telling you." Um, but that was more the way that my adopted mom and my aunt have described it to me is that it was like a crossroads. That house is a spiritual portal. I've seen all kinds of spirits there. Um,
Hmm.
uh, I mean, all kinds of spirits in the house. My grandmother, well, she's my step grandmother, but she's my grandmother, passed away in the house. I've seen her there multiple times. I've seen other spirits there. Um, so that house has got there's a portal in those woods, and good and bad can come out of portals. Does that make sense to you?
Sure. Yeah.
But when Brand, but that was a little side story. What happened when me seeing something malevolent.
That
But
is creepy.
back to Brandon. When he came to me and told me he was going to go, me and John were in our home, and we had a roommate who lived she was in the other bedroom, which was right by the front door, and it was a trailer, so it was a single wide trailer. And the way the house was set up, she walked in the front door, went directly to the right, and there was her room, and then if you kept and you went straight, there was the living room, and then you went to the left, there's the kitchen, and then the bathroom, then our room. And so I'd gotten up probably around 2:45 to get something to drink. And I was pouring myself a glass of tea, and I turned around, and there he was sitting on my couch. And I didn't say much. I didn't think much. I was, thought he was just coming by to say hello.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "I've got to go." I said, "Okay, I'll see you next time." He said, "There won't be a next time. You won't see me again." I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I'm going to go to the flip side." "What do you mean?" "I'm going to the flip side. I'm not coming back." And I was like, "No, you can't. We can't leave. You can't. No, sorry, you're not going nowhere. Sorry, that's not an option, buddy." And
Hmm.
he was like, "Look, I love you. I love you. And I've stayed for over a year to make sure that you and my mom and a few other friends of ours were going to be okay. Um, but it's time for me to move on." And with that, he stood up and he walked across the floor, opened the door like a normal human being would, and shut the door and walked outside, and he was gone. And I went back to bed, and the next morning I woke up, and I thought it was a dream. Maybe I didn't think much of it. And then I found the glass of tea that I'd been pouring myself, and my roommate come out of her room. She's like, "Who in the fuck was over here last night?" I said, "What do you
Mm.
mean?" She's like, "Who were you in here screaming?" I said, "Who are you in here? I didn't even hear them. I heard you. Like, you need to be quiet. Like this, you were doing that right by my room." And then you slammed the door. And I was like, "No, I didn't slam the door." She's like, "Who are
Wow.
you? Who are you talking to?" And
Hmm.
so I knew at that point in time it was real, and I haven't seen him since.
Wow. That is crazy. I mean, that is really powerful experience, but I guess that it can't hang around forever, right?
I mean, I believe that they can, but why would they want to? You know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so my experiences has really helped me in ways that I didn't think it would have. It has given me the ability to comprehend things on a different level. And because if you had asked me this before I had that experience, I'd have told you that you were crazy.
Hmm.
Ghosts didn't exist. Like fear is stupid. Like that. It's not real. Um, but now, I'm obviously in a point where I believe I believe in the karmatic balance, and also believe that there is good and evil. There's positive and negative. And
Hmm.
whether you want to call negative spirits demonic, or you want to call positive spirit angelic, or however you want to put it, I believe that when you pass away, you go to wherever it is that you spent your entire life believing you would go. Like, so the way that I've told my dad this part, and he calls it, he kind of agrees with me. He's more like, he's more Christian based, but he's more on my believing side than like my stepmom would be. And he's
Okay.
like, so much if I choose to be a Buddhist my entire life, when I die, I get to go to see that. And I'm like, yes, that's how I believe. Because personally, like I would love to be reincarnated. I would love to be reborn into another individual. And like, I believe that I have been reincarnated before. I believe
Hmm.
like moments like deja vu are not really deja vu. That's just flashbacks to your previous life. Um, um, if you were, whether it was 20, 30 years before you passed away or before
Right.
you were reborn to the next body, I believe that that's the cycle that my spirit has chosen. And that's what's going to happen when I pass away.
Yes.
So,
I do agree with
uh,
you there.
yeah, I mean, if you have a Christian background, if you believe in God and Jesus, and I'm not saying that they're not real,
Hmm.
because there are just so many NDE experiences, so many spiritual encounters where people have claimed to see God and Jesus and have claimed
Hmm.
that they were, were sent to hell and whatnot. And I believe it. Like I believe them.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I
I
also,
think I think it, like you were saying, like it's just sort of your mindset is that's where you're gonna go, basically. So if you, yeah, but I'm sorry, I didn't
but I
mean to
also
cut you off.
believe, no, you're fine. I believe that if you are a bad soul, if you are a bad spirit in general, uh, that you don't get anything good in the afterlife. I'm not
Hmm.
saying it's fire and brimstone or, you know, in my opinion, hell would personally be your worst fears, your worst uh, icks or ticks, or even claustrophobia, or if you don't like spiders, or what, you know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm. Hmm.
that would be your hell, and that might be what you get.
Right.
Because like I said, I believe in the karmatic balance of good receives good and bad receives bad.
Yes.
If you're a decent person or a decent spirit, you're going to be perceived as that in the afterlife, that and like my dad calls it insurance shopping for religions and dead people. He kind of made a joke about it. He was like, it's like when you die, you're going to this mall and there's like kiosks of different places where you can go, and I'm like, no, it's not like that. You know, um,
It would be cool though.
yeah, I guess it would be,
Yeah.
but that goes to show y'all that we have a relationship now. We get along really well.
Well, that is good to hear. I mean, that it really is. I mean, you know, your story could have gone a lot of different ways. And fortunately, it sounds like you and your dad's relationship has definitely improved. And that is good
Yeah,
to
well,
hear.
it is. It took a long time. It really did. It took um, us both going through things in our lives that had to change, and he had to be accepting of me how I am, and
Hmm.
the fact that it was nothing he did wrong that made me be gay or anything. It was more like I believe I was born this way because I can remember being 5 years old looking at guys differently than I did girls. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Uh, what 5-year-old sexualizes anything? You know what I mean? So
Wait, you mean the Catholic Church is wrong and you can't be indoctrinated in this? Who knew?
yeah, the Catholic Church. That's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah, isn't it?
Or
Oh.
I had some people that came to the restaurant actually. I drove up a week ago, and I say people, it was a gentleman, and he was hitting on me, and it was strange because I don't really think I put that out there when I'm at work because I don't put my whole personality into it. I'm just like,
Hmm.
hey, my name
Yeah,
is blah
you
blah.
are who you have
Like,
to be at work. Yeah.
but he was hitting on me, and I thought he was kind of attractive. And like I said, me and my husband, we've had issues for, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of going along with it. He was like, well, do you know your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And well, I really don't want to get into that. Like that's kind of personal.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, his eyes, he was like, oh no, God sent me here to tell you that you're gonna burn in hell if I don't save your soul tonight. I'm like, the hell do you mean, dude? Like, please go the hell away, freaky.
Yeah.
He was like, every time I walked past the table, he'd try to grab me and like physically try to grab me and like be like, come over
Wow.
and pray with me. And I looked at him, I said, dude, how the hell are you going towards a religion that tells you that you're gonna burn in hell? Well, the Old Testament says that, yes, but the New Testament, blah, 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 blah. And I was married to a woman, and me and the woman didn't work out, and I have a kid, and now I want to be with a man, and I think you're very attractive. And first of all, I turned, I said, look, I'm still in a committed relationship, first off. Second off, you, you lost me at the whole religion thing. Like when I told you I didn't
Mhm.
want to talk about that, that should have been where it stopped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't down anyone's boat. I don't force how I feel about anything down anyone's boat
That's
because
how
it's
it
not
should be.
right.
Yeah, I agree with
Exactly. I
that.
mean, like I have a coworker, for example, who asked me if I could read her tarot cards. I told
Mm-hmm.
her I could, but I don't really use tarot cards. But she really wanted tarot cards read, so I'm gonna go get some tarot cards, and I'm gonna read them for her this weekend. And she wants me to do some other things for her. Something that I call a soul reading, where I can read certain things about somebody, and it's like watching a movie, honestly, in my head of what they've gone through and some key points of their life that has stuck out for them. And for hers, I've already done hers in my head. I've seen it,
Hmm.
but I haven't told her yet.
That's
But
pretty
obviously,
amazing.
she's an older lady and comes from a Christian background, but she's not one of those Christians that put me down. You know what I'm saying? That say I'm
Mm-hmm.
crazy, and
Yeah,
that's
the
what I cannot stand.
judgmental type. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I can't stand about really the Christian religion is they're all judgmental. It's do
Mm.
as I say, not as I do.
Oh yeah.
I can ask you for being gay, and because technically, if you want to get into it, what they consider that I practice would be witchcraft. I mean, but
Yeah.
see, a lot of people don't sit back and think about the similarities of all the religions together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like I have candles that I light, which I haven't done it in the past few weeks because I've just been really tired coming home from work. As I told you, I work 6 days a week,
Doubles,
doubles every day.
yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Got my kitten. I've got my kitten too. She's not in here. She's in the other room because I didn't want her bothering anybody. But she'll knock the candles over. So, um, but I have my candles that I light, and I have these little water fountains that I have with them, and that's when I zen out and I go to meditation state, and that's more like my religious time with myself. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely. I
and I
mean,
was
the answers
explaining
are
that,
inside.
yeah, I mean, it's all in it, and like I said, I do believe that all religions have a core basis of
Mm-hmm.
one singular or multiple gods or goddesses, and they control different things in this world. And I believe that most religions have that similarity, except for mine. Mine is different. Like I just believe I just believe in reincarnation, and I believe that that happen to me when I die, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess that's where I got off on that story with that guy that was hitting on me. Because he was like, "How are you gonna hit on me 1 second, then tell me if I don't do this with you that I'm gonna burn in hell?" Like,
It's interesting
it
how
was
he
crazy, and
manipulated it to serve himself. Oh God.
it was,
Yeah.
he, God, it was crazy. And I remember I told my coworker that was there, and she was like, get his number." And I was like, no, no, not that one,
Mm.
no, nope.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Sounds like bad news.
So
Okay,
yeah,
let me see.
yeah.
So anything else before we wrap up? One of the things I do like to ask people as well is what is God to you? Or what is It's like even the word God these days, it's been so manipulated, but you know what I'm talking about.
Excuse me. God to me would be the feeling of peace when you're in the spirit world. It's a feeling. It's more like a not a physical being,
Hmm.
but feeling of all contentness of knowing anything you could ever want to know. And that's the beauty of the spirit world is when you go into the spirit world.
The veil is lifted and there's no more questions. And
Exactly. I mean, it's like you could ask, what was the answer to the third question on my fourth grade math quiz in 1993. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, that
but you
would be
would,
great.
not that you would, but you could.
Hmm.
And I think for people like me who can go between both worlds and have the ability, I believe there's a block in our souls or spirits that when we cross over that we can't bring back um, information that is just asked. Like you can't ask me, "Hey, go into the spirit world tonight," and ask me if the Steelers are going to win the next football game. You
Hmm.
can't do that. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, but I do believe that it's the feeling of peace and content, and just you, and I believe that I will have that feeling when I pass away, um, for real, um, because I experienced a little bit of it when I was in with my mom. I experienced a little bit of it. It was
it's
nice
beautiful.
to, and I will say this: I could smell in that world, and her, she had my mom had a very unique smell. She smelled like cigarettes and light rain hairspray. I know that sounds kind of trashy, but she did. That's what she wore. She wore white rain hairspray in her hair, and she always smoked. And that was something that I noticed about her that I guess kind of made me draw towards her. Does that make sense? Was
Hmm.
that I smelled her, and she smelled very natural to me. Like that's what she was supposed to.
Right.
But like I do believe that in the spirit world, when you cross over, and let's say you believe like I do, and you believe in reincarnation, there's a wheel that you see, and it's like a you spin the wheel, and it lands on what your next life is going to be. I mean, I personally believe that you could go to back to the 1700s if you wanted to. You know,
Hmm.
be living this life in 2024 now, get killed in a car accident tomorrow morning, and go be back, and then by tomorrow night be in 1873. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because
but
yeah, I don't think you mentioned it in this interview, but I think maybe when we talked before about the feeling of time and how didn't you tell me that the time just it wasn't there or was very different.
it did it didn't exist. No, it didn't. It was very, very much. How do I put this? It's like you could tell that you were moving forward in time, like you were watching something happening, and that's what I was watching happening, and that I was time was progressing.
Hmm.
But what I perceived in that world at that point in time of an hour is probably what I would say it was of the time that I stepped out of my body and went with her to the theater room. I would say most likely it was an hour in my mind or what my spirit perceived, but really only could have been like 7 minutes max.
Wow.
It would have taken my sister enough time to run upstairs, call him, and have him come running. He lived in the neighborhood behind us, so he would have been to my home in well under 4.5 minutes. So I mean,
Hmm.
it really I'm gonna give it 7 minutes tops of how long I was out of my body. Um, but yeah, definitely the time does not exist when you're over there.
It's amazing. Well, my friend, do you have any last words before we depart here? Any advice you would
Um,
give to anybody?
I would say don't judge a book by its cover. Obviously, don't. If somebody tells you, first off, if somebody feels comfortable enough to tell you that they've been through that, do not judge them, whether you believe that way or not. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe anything I've told you tonight. But I know it happened, and I know how it worked for me. Um, because I feel like we live in such a judgmental society. I feel like we live in such a society that what the next person says is wrong, and we all need to jump on the bandwagon and judge them. And so I've been judged before multiple times with my story. Um, people people say, "Oh, you're crazy. That didn't happen. There was no medical intervention. You just passed out." No, I didn't. I mean, how could I know these things that I know? So
Mhm.
maybe open your mind a little bit more and think um, and think a little bit clearer and know that people can there are people out there that are psychic intuitive. There are people out there who can see the dead, who can experience things that you cannot. And I just think you should be more open to it. You know, I,
I I do. All right. Well, hey
I mean,
Jay,
there's
I really do appreciate um you talking to me and spending the time and sharing your story because I think it's important that that messages like this get out there and people understand that there's a lot more to this perceived reality than we are aware of. So, thank you again so much
any
for speaking with me. I really appreciate it.
anytime. Thank you for listening, Jeff. I really appreciate it, man.
Hmm. Take care, my friend. Have a good night. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time.